Hello there. What is going on, everyone? We are talking Star Wars Armada Sector Fleet thematic builds. And today's target is the Battle of Coruscant, a Republic fleet that could emulate the fleet that we saw at the Battle of Coruscant. I'm using Sector Fleet rules for this because it allows us to go for a larger fleet that's, a little bit more typical of what you might have seen on screen. And frankly, that doesn't do it anywhere justice. There were thousands of ships on both sides at this battle, which, looking into the Battle of Coruscant, it becomes very quick to find out that I wonder if the number of clones actually added up. You had like 1.2 million as of episode 2. Reports say that there were upwards of 6 million clones that were in service by the end of the war. However, with something along the lines of 1,000 Venators, each with about 7,000 crew, which were mostly clones, it ends up being that even if those numbers were accurate, that would have meant that every single clone in existence was at this battle. And of course, that's clearly not the case. So you kind of then have to stretch it and say, well, these clones, the crews of these ships weren't all clones, or maybe at the Battle of Coruscant, every single ship there was operating on a skeleton crew, with only like 20 or 30 people on board or something like that. It becomes very, very weird when you think about such incredibly large numbers. So we're going to shrink it down a little bit. I'm going to do a 600-point fleet, and we're going to do a small approximation of the Republic fleet that you might find in a very small section of the Battle of Coruscant to this video. There are a couple of things that I had in mind that I wanted to make sure that I included. The first being, of course, Venators. There were mostly Venators. When you watch the battle on screen, it's kind of a shame that they show so many Separatist ships, but pretty much only show Venators. Now, this is something that we're going to do. We're going to stretch it a little bit because, if you read into it, you see that there weren't only Venators at the Battle of Coruscant. And I actually found one on-screen capture that I'm going to share with you of what I think was a Victory Star Destroyer. But we're going to see. It probably wasn't. It was probably just a Venator at a weird angle. But you can let me know down in the comments if you agree when I get to that point. Also, speaking of comments, we are doing a $25 Amazon gift card giveaway. You just have to be a subscriber and leave a comment on this or one of my videos. It's as simple as that. That enters you to win. We typically run these giveaways for about 2 weeks. And at the end of one of my videos, I'll announce who the winner is, and then we'll start another giveaway and all that other stuff. So if you're already subscribed, you're already halfway there. Let me know what you think and what battle you want to see next. So, with that being said, let's keep going with more of the things that I wanted to have. I also wanted to make sure that I had some squadrons. I am a big fan of running big Armada builds with very, very few squadrons or no squadrons at all. In this case, since Anakin and Obi-Wan were so integral in doing this, I wanted to make sure I had 2 squadrons. Now, we don't have ETA 2s. We don't have those Jedi starfighters that they had in that one, but there are approximations that we can work with. And so, with that in mind, that will influence some of the build. I also wanted to make sure that we included the SFAT cannon. The SFAT was basically the self-propelled heavy artillery -T. It is a giant howitzer, basically, inside the bay of a of a Venator shooting out, and it's a really cool weapon. It's very, very clever stuff, and I love it. And it was a very, very strong shot, and it's a very iconic scene at the opening of one of the greatest space battles of all time at the beginning of Episode 3. I also wanted to make sure I included a victory. If you notice this scene right here, right when they're closing in on Grievous's command ship, and they point about all the vulture droids on there, and as they're starting to take off, there is a ship off in the distance on the left side of the screen here that has just 3 engine lights glowing. And of course, Venators have more than that. Now, it's far away. It could have just been a graphical error or whatever, but in my mind, that's a Victory Star Destroyer. According to some documentation, they did have Victory Star Destroyers there, so that's one of those things that influenced the build. With all that being said, let's cut over to Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder and actually put this together. So we're going to go ahead and build this. And I'm using Ryan Kingston's Fleet Builder. I'll put a link to it in the video description below. It's a great fleet builder, and we're going to build a 600-point fleet with this one. So I do know that I want I want squadrons. I want Anakin and Obi-Wan, but we don't have Obi-Wan in a fighter. I could put Obi-Wan as my commander, but I feel like that breaks immersion just a little bit. So what I'm going to want to do here is I'm going to want Anakin, and I'm going to use Anakin and Ahsoka instead. I'll put him in his Delta 7 because the Y-Wings, we didn't really see Y-Wings there. So I'm going to run, Ahsoka's standing in for Obi-Wan. That's just how we're going to do it. Adding a ship, we are going to go with, we're going to go with the Venator 2 for our flagship. Our flagship is going to have Tarkin on board. I feel like he probably would have been there. He seems thematic. It also is going to work fairly well for a big fleet to have Tarkin there, so that makes sense. We're going to put Tarkin on there. I'm going to give this ship the Svat, which is going to be nice. And we brought a Venator 2 because I wanted thermal shields. I want this thing to stay alive. And we'll give it a little firepower. We'll give it XI7. And we're going to give it assault proton torpedoes in case we get the thermal shields. I'm sorry, the Svat to actually proc, and we can get that black die crit at long range and concentrate fire, perhaps. A lot of cool stuff like that. We're going to run a second Venator. Again, there's going to be a lot of Venators. We're going to copy all of this. We're going to copy the XI7, the Svats, thermal shields, and assault protons. So we've got a couple of Svats now. And that kind of is, I think that's kind of good enough for the number of Venator with Svats we're going to have. I'm going to put a Venator 1 because I don't want all Venators. I don't want all Venator 2s at least. And the Venator 1 is going to give us Fleet Command. And for that, I'll take Intensify Firepower because, well, that's my favorite one. So, of course, I will take Intensify Firepower. Although, to be honest, if we're going really thematic, Hot Landing would be perfect. But, maybe another Venator just slightly off screen is the one that has Hot Landing for we have to change things a little bit for gameplay reasons, but it's okay. Like, we don't have Lucre Hulks either, so the Separatist, if I do a Separatist version of this, is not going to be able to, have as much, although just about any ship kind of works in that case, except hard cells, right? So, so a Venator 1, we'll give it Intensify Firepower, we'll give it Ordnance Experts, since this one has a little more black dice, and we'll give it Assault Proton Torpedoes. So this one can kind of fly in and get face-to-face with people, whereas the other Venator 2s are a little more defended. This one can hang back at first, and then maybe protect the flanks of the flagship or something like that. That's kind of the idea. So we've got 3 Venators already. We are already over 400 points. We're going to run a Victory, because I do want a Victory Star Destroyer in the build. There it is. There's our Victory, and he's going to be a little bit of a black dice monster. He's going to be charging after people. He's going to die. He's going to be the first to die for sure. We're going to give him engine techs. I want him going fast. I want Ordnance Experts on here for the black dice rerolls, and I think we're going to max out his potential of black dice because again, we also want to have fun when we play, and if I can make this shot work, it'd be great. So we're going to put expanded launchers in here since that one went down in points recently, and external racks. So this is the massive amount of black dice that we're looking at here. 1, 2, 3 plus 3 red, starting at 3, adding 2, so 5, 6, 7, 8 with concentrate fire, plus the 3 red. We got some rerolls with Ordnance Experts. It's probably a little too much because we'll probably have a couple of blanks in there, but it's just a beautiful thing. If we can make that shot work, it'll be magnificent. So it'll be fun, and that's important. That we're gonna have fun with it. There were other support ships that did exist, although again, we're all going according to documentation. So I'll put a Pelta in there because I feel like they had a lot of Peltas in the Republic fleet. Again, we're stretching it a little bit here. We're gonna go. We're trying to save points. We'll go with a transport frigate, and since we are running a lot of things that require concentrate fire tokens, Tarkin can probably handle handing out engineering to everybody. In this way, everybody can just run navigation or something like that, or a combination of navigation and extra concentrate fire or whatever. Or maybe Tarkin just does, I think Tarkin will do engineering for everybody. But then this way the Pelta can hand out concentrate fire tokens for all those fats, and then the people who really want to concentrate fire for the extra stuff can do that as well. So we're going to go with our, we're going to add fleet support over here, and we're going to go munitions resupply. I mean, parts resupply is very common. but I don't think I'm going to need as many of those, and I think Tarkin can help us out with the engineering, so I don't think we'll need parts resupply with Tarkin. I'm going to try munitions resupply here. It'll let those fats fired and reload at key times, or give me some flexibility to do other things. So I like that. And then it's an extra activation. It's filling out the fleet a little bit more. We have a few more points, but not too many more. I want to thread out my squadrons a little bit more, because while we did have Anakin and Obi-Wan, we also had a bunch of ARC 170s that were supporting them. So we're going to add 2 extra ARC 170. So this gives us 4 squadrons. At least we have a respectable mid-level amount of squadrons that can go out and do things. And it's a thematic build right at 600 points. Now this is far from the actual Battle of Coruscant, but it does kind of capture a little snapshot in what might be the Battle of Coruscant. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section below. If you have another suggestion of a big thematic build that you want to see done, let me know and I'll take a pass at it. You can also jump in our Discord and share your thoughts there as well. If you have other questions about Star Wars Armada or other Star Wars tabletop games, of course, let me know down in the comments over in Discord. My other social media links are down there, or if you're interested in Patreon supporting the channel, there's links for that as well. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Big thanks to my patrons. You guys are amazing and help make this whole channel possible. I will talk to you later. May the Force be with you. Live long and prosper. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. So say we all, and always wash your socks.